Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is California Games for the Commodore 64, released by Epyx in 1987. It was released on the Commodore 64 and a bunch of other systems from that era. Epyx was a pretty popular game developer in the 80s, and they brought a bunch of really popular games to market, like winter games, summer games. Those were their standout ones anyway. California Games was also considered a huge success back then, and it sold more than 500,000 units. I'm playing California Games on a C64 full-sized, and the game loads far faster than the Commodore 64 version I played when I was a kid. Basically, this game consists of a variety of individual mini-games that you play for a high score. It's a good idea, I think, because if you aren't interested in some of the games, you have others that you might like. This one has a pretty decent list of mini-games too. There's half-pipe skateboarding, there's surfing, hacky-sack, roller skating, BMX, and frisbee. This game for me really revolves around maybe two events. I have the most fun getting wiped out on the half-pipe and surfing. The music is clever enough in these sections, and it's the type of game you appreciate the longer you don't crash. Once you get a little bit comfortable with the controls, it will likely start becoming easier to play. If you don't crash, it's just you performing moves and running out of timer. Remember, this was way back in 1987. There were not a lot of skateboarding games on the market. There were a few, of course, but none of them came anywhere close to what we have offered nowadays, like on the PlayStation. The PlayStation wouldn't even have been released for another 7 years, and Tony Hawk Pro Skater wasn't until 1999. You start the game and you can select a sponsor. There's a whole list of sponsors to choose from. It just adds a little bit of flavor to the game, and I'm fairly certain it doesn't really affect anything. The half-pipe game is fun, although it's very rudimentary. You have a single joystick with only one button, and you need to get used to running up the ramp and timing your button presses. Handling the half-pipe is not really intuitive, and it's not that easy to understand. You press the fire button to drop in, and now you have to gather speed, so you have to press down when you're traveling down the sides of the ramp, and up when you're headed up. You don't have to do it every time. Once you get up to speed, at that point you're trying to do moves. But my understanding is that if you just want to go back and forth, and all you try to do is speed up more and more, eventually you're going to naturally crash. Eventually you get to a spot where the game expects you're going to start turning, and when you don't, it will wipe you out. It's all about timing with this. It's not quickly up and down. You need to hold the joystick in that direction. Basically, look at the sides of the ramp. It seems to me just as the curve on the ramp is turning, that's where you need to sort of release the joystick and prepare to go up the other side. After you hit the next curve, press up as you're going up. You should be releasing near the top of the ramp as well, because at the top, when you hit that top of the ramp, whether it's at the coping or whether it's in the air, it's expecting you're pressing in a direction to do a move. You're going to fail a lot before you manage to get regular speed on the ramp, or actually start to do any moves. I still fall all the time. When you start, probably best to select practice mode so you can do it over and over again. At the bottom of the screen too, when you fail, it'll give you little hints as to what you're doing wrong. If you find yourself getting frustrated, it's probably just about timing. Accept that whatever you're doing is wrong, and really look at your controller and try to figure out what timing you can change to make it work. I would start, honestly, by trying to just drop in and get up a little bit of speed. After you've gone back and forth in the ramp a few times and you can see how you're picking up speed, then you can try starting like a kick turn at the top of the ramp. Just press the joystick and hold it just a second in the opposite direction of the ramp. If you crash, just try again and pay attention to where your position is as you're pressing the joystick. To level set expectations here, there are only 3 moves in this particular game. There's a kick turn, which is just you turning around at the top of the ramp. There are also aerial turns, which is you turning when you're up in the air. And then, of course, there's a hand plant. There's only 3 moves, and it's all about 3 different sets of timing. All of this effort for only 3 moves. For kick turns, all you have to do is press in the opposite direction at the top of the ramp. The opposite direction, I'm talking the other side of the map. You want to press right, not down. You're basically just pressing in the opposite direction of your character. Aerial turns are the same thing, but in order to work this, you have to be in the air, and you have to sort of be at the peak of your air, and then you have to hold the controller and release it at the right time. It's all about timing. It's not just a quick press, it's usually a press and a hold for a split second. Hand plants, you're supposed to press the fire button just as you're getting to the top of the ramp. I have trouble doing this on the Commodore 64 version. I seem to be okay at the NES version. It's weird. Still, when you get a clean run, as hard as this game can be, it feels really good. Although it's been a long time since I've had a really clean run. I used to be much better at this, now just getting a kick turn is a joy. The best way to play this, at least initially, I think, is just to go to the practice level and run it over and over again. The surfing game is pretty fun as well. It handles well enough for one controller. all you really need to do is spend your time cruising and jumping up and off of waves, or cutting back and spinning across a wave. It's about getting the right amount of speed and turning into waves properly. Probably one of the easier minigames here, at least in terms of, getting the hang of things. Every now and again a dolphin shows up, or maybe a shark at the end. That's kind of clever. But it's a pretty smooth game, I think. If you find yourself getting frustrated with some of the other minigames, I suggest switching to this one, because cruising on a wave for just a bit, it's kind of relaxing. It's worth some time. The footbag, or hacky sack, it's simple enough to be fun for a few minutes, I guess. It's just not my thing. The goal was to kick the little sack into the air and just try to keep it in the air as long as you can while you perform these little tricks. You press the button to launch the sack in the air, and then you just use your joystick to move your position under the sack as it falls. You press your button again, or press your joystick up to try to keep this in the air. If you press up, you're going to jump, and if you press down, your character will turn around. Now you use these to mix and match all the different options to try to perform a bunch of different tricks and get points. It's weird because I play this and sometimes I think I'm doing well, and then I see the score at the end and it turns out I'm not doing very good at all. There's also a roller skating event. It has some odd movements to speed up. You kind of have to swirl your joystick in front of you to push off and gain some speed, so you're kind of moving the joystick south, east, and north, and then back again, and you're rocking it back and forth. Once you get it, it's probably not that difficult. It's just a little odd. Maybe not as odd as the BMX mode, but it's kind of odd. You press up and down to adjust your position on the sidewalk, and you press the fire button to jump. If you press the joystick back and down or back and up, you can actually spin clockwise or counterclockwise. It's kind of just you integrating these spins with the jumps and trying to dodge obstacles to get points. It's a little clunky, but it's okay. It's pretty great when your character wipes out, I think. It's a pretty decent little animation. I find it kind of humorous. There's also a BMX bike course, and it handles probably worse than roller skating here. You press up and down to move left and right in the course, and that's how you steer around obstacles, and you push left to pull a wheelie. The button, in conjunction with the joystick, will jump your bike, or possibly try a backflip if you go fast enough. The weird part about this game is that you have to get speed, and to do this, you have to press right on the controller over and over again. So you have to press forward, forward, forward. You got to look at the screen, you got to dodge and jump as you try to progress through the course, trying to do tricks along the way. And I don't claim to be an expert on this one, and I think that my riding footage here will prove it. There's also a flying disc game as well, or basically frisbee. You're actually playing two people here. You throw the disc, which is pretty easy, and then as soon as you throw it, you actually are now controlling the person on the other side that's trying to catch the disc. I find that much harder here. There's a meter that you use to throw. All you do is you push left on the joystick and you'll see the line start moving. When it hits the green zone, you press right, and then the line starts moving back to the other zone. When it hits the green zone on the right, you push left, and that's you throwing the disc. Then your control is with the other character, and your job is to look at where the frisbee's going and how it's arcing over the distance, and you have to move your character left or right to try to time the catch. As the frisbee gets close, you can press up to try and jump and catch the disc, or you can use the button and the joystick to try to do a dive catch. Good luck with this one. I have yet to catch a frisbee in the C64 version. California Games is a fun collection of mini-games for the C64, and I do find some of these more enjoyable than others, but overall I think it's pretty great. I can see why it was so popular, and I can remember why it was so popular, especially considering how different the games were for the time and how good the music was for a Commodore 64 game. Well, that's all I have for the C64 version of California Games. Thanks for stopping by to take a look, and I'll catch you next time.